everyone's attention. First of all, welcome to Kansas Speedway. Looking forward to a great weekend here. We welcome with our first availability, Jimmie Johnson, driver of the number 48 Lowe's Cobalt Tools Chevrolet. Obviously, this is a sad time for not only everyone in the country right now, but Hendrick Motorsports as well. Jimmie, I understand you have a few words you'd like to share with us today.
Yeah, I would assume everybody has seen the press release, but last night the shooting that took place. Unfortunately, has some attachment to Hendrick Motorsports, and someone in our engine shop, it was his brother, Andrew Collier's brother, Sean, was tragically killed last night. Still a lot of questions going on. Obviously, if anybody's had a chance to watch the news today, there still is a lot of chaos taking place in Boston and trying to gather all that's going on. But a very sad time. My thoughts and prayers are with the Collier family, and I certainly know that it's the same thing for all of Hendrick Motorsports. We're one big family, and it's sad and unfortunate to see a fellow teammate and his family going through such a tough time.
To reiterate what Jimmie said, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in the country right now. So thank you for your thoughts and consideration and your just consideration right now. We will move forward with Jimmie's availability. Jimmie, obviously Kansas has been a good track for you coming into the weekend first in points. Talk a little bit about your thoughts on the weekend.
Excited to be back. I think that every driver and team is excited to race here. First there was a racetrack, and now there is this thriving community and business that's around the track as well. Businesses, I should say. It's nice to come here as the track. It was newly repaved, but with the progressive banking, I think there's a lot of good racing that's going to take place. And I think we had a nice opening event here last fall, one that we were very competitive in. And I think as the track ages, we'll have a lot of lanes to choose from, and a lot of great racing will take place as a result of the reconfiguration. But again, the area is great. I spent a lot of time in this area driving for the Herzogs that were up the road in St. Joseph, Missouri, and smile for a few reasons every time I come back to this racetrack.
We'll take questions for Jimmie. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. We'll start with Kenny, then go to the back of Tom.
Kenny Bruce with NASCAR.com. Let's go with a good one. Did you guys turn in Penske's last week?
No,
and also, I'm assuming you've heard Brad's comments as far as he felt like they've been targeted and under the microscope the last week or so. You and Chad obviously know how that feels. Can you kind of talk about when you do have success, how much closer NASCAR does scrutinize everything that you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, when you have success on your side, the magnifying glass, the viewpoint for everybody, NASCAR, other teams, it gets a lot more intense. And the best officiating in the garage area has always been your neighbor, and that's just been part of NASCAR for years and years, and why NASCAR has the procedures in place that they do in the garage area, and why even in F1 today they're not allowed to cover their stuff anymore. It's just part of it. And with all that being said, no, the Hendrick Group and the 48 team did not rat out the Penske cars. There are two decisions teams are faced with in the garage area. Everybody has people watching. And we've been very impressed with the two cars' staff and their ability to have somebody just stand and watch other teams. So this environment does take place in the garage area. So yeah, there are eyes open. But when a team sees something, they have two options. One, they go home and try to adapt it to their car and understand it and see if they can make it work, or they go on the truck and say something. We don't say something. We're a company built on performance. We're a company that tries to understand the rule book close as we can to the law. And sure, we've had our issues with it, but that's racing. It's been that way since day one of racing. But we go in there and we try to be as smart as we can and conform to the rules and put the best race car on the track. So with all that being said, no, sure. There was a lot of activity around the Penske cars during the test day, just like all the other cars. And everybody's watching, everybody's looking. But no way, shape, or form did anybody from the 48 car walk into that truck and say anything.
Okay, obviously we are limited on time today, but we'll try to take as many of your questions as we can. We'll go next to Tom and then go up to Brian.
Hi, Jimmie. Tom Jensen, Speed.com. How difficult is it to come and race in a tragic situation like this today. Is it easy to put it out of your mind when you get in the car? And obviously you guys had to go through the situation. In 2004, you came out and won in Atlanta. Very emotional time for you. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, it's ever changing, to be honest with you. I mean, Monday, I think everyone dealt with grief and sadness and shock. Come Tuesday, I found out that the Gross family that from Charlotte that was injured in the bombing, that I had not an attachment to him, but I know Nicole. I know who Nicole is. The pool that I swim at on Tuesdays and Thursdays, she's there often and instructing others. You know, she's a swim coach and works with a lot of people. So once that hit home with me, I'm like, wow, I know who she is. I know her face. I didn't put that together prior to, so that brought it a little closer to home for me. And then now this morning, learning the news about what happened last night brings us closer to it again. And absolutely, we'll race with heavy hearts. You know, at a sporting event, at a type of event where most people are competing for the awareness of a charity or for some cause, to have, you know, these innocent people that are there in the spirit of giving back, have this tragedy take place is just, it's ridiculous. And you know, I think we've all as a society have paid attention to that, and it's hit somewhere deep in us on that. But you know, the last 3 hours, it's gone to a new level, knowing that a fellow teammate's now directly involved with what took place in Boston.
Okay, we'll take our next question in the middle here from Brian. If we can get a mic to him, please.
Jimmy, Brian, Nelson Motor Racing Network. I want to ask you about spotters and Earl. And it seems like drivers have, you know, some have pilots, some have other members of their team, former drivers. Is that something that the chemistry between the driver and the spotter, and there's really no profile that fits best for everybody? It's just whatever works for you. And what makes Earl such a great spotter for you?
Yeah, there just is a connection with a driver and a spotter, and you really don't know that until you get racing and get into some real pressure situations, and you can tell when your spotter saved your butt, or you know, if they missed something and got you into an issue. So I haven't had many spotters along the way. I don't believe I've ever had an issue with one where it was like, okay, you need to go do something else. So I've been very fortunate along the way. And I think at Hendrick, we find good people and are able to make sure we go to the track with the right people in place. But even the earlier years, I was very fortunate to have Lauren Rainier spot for me when I got into Nationwide. And it would always surprise me the eye that he had. As I was a rookie, I needed that experienced eye up there watching. And he could tell me when I missed my mark by 4 or 6 inches. And he's like, man, that wasn't it. Try again. So, and everybody has a different need inside the car, and when you find someone that you get along with, it lasts for a long time.
Okay, we'll take our next question to the left over here for Bob.
I'm Bob Parker, Sporting News.
I hear you, but I don't see you.
I'm over here behind the pole,
Behind Nate.
underneath the
Sorry.
speaker.
Gotcha.
Was there any part of you that thought the Penske penalty was somewhat just in the sense that Brad was complaining, or at least talking about your rear end suspension last year?
Brad was talking about my rear end? Sounds like we got bigger issues than race car stuff, man. And I've said this before, Brad is a huge talent, but as we all know, Brad will say things. And when you're in the sport long enough, you learn when you need to be careful, and no team is immune to issues. I don't want the crew chief's job. Those guys live on the ragged edge, and they have to. If not, you're going to run 20th every week. So, I think over time I've learned, and have also clearly experienced some issues where, man, you just do your thing, and there's no need to spout off what other people are up to. I think there's been a few lessons that Brad's learned along the way this year as to, when to say something. All that being said, it doesn't take away from the fact that, with the penalties and with what Penske's going through right now, it doesn't take away the fact that they're the champions and they did an awesome job last year. And I still think Brad is an awesome driver, and that team has awesome equipment, and we're going to deal with them week in and week out. Again, I've lived through it, and it doesn't, good teams survive. Good teams and drivers will always survive, but it's going to put a lot of stress in their worlds for the next 6, 8, 10 weeks, depending on how long appeals last and all that. And we'll all see how they respond to it. But once they get some normalcy back in their life, at track, they're going to be right there at the front of the pack, each week like we've seen so far.
Final question, Claire.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I realize it's different for every team, and that, for you, Chad Canal is different than the crew chief over there. But if they do not win on appeal, how important, that whole group of people that would be gone, team manager, engineers, how important are the engineers to a driver? When you look at that whole group, they can all work back at the shop. But as you look at it, how difficult would it be for them to compete on the track, even keel with all those people back working at home?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, your depth chart really gets challenged at that point. And we know that as fines continue to come out, they will never be less than what happened before. So it's going to continue to go to new levels. And NASCAR is obviously discouraging and wants to discourage this type of activity, so they're going to make the punishment harsher and harsher. Now it's not just a crew chief suspension. You're into engineers, and typically your engineer would sit on the box and call the race if a crew chief was gone. So what's next? And it's going to be tough. Without a doubt, it's going to be really hard for those guys to perform. I'm not saying that it's impossible, and I do expect great things out of Penske. Roger has an awesome racing operation and a lot of smart people over there. So it's not going to be easy, but I think they'll survive.
Could an engineer fill in easily for another engineer, or is it that much of that engineer?
You can, and I mean, they have their IndyCar staff with a lot of very smart people, but it's just like a driver coming into a car, a very accomplished driver from another form of racing. It'd be the same as another accomplished crew chief or engineer from a different form of racing. You come in, you can get in the game, you can get close, but to win at this level, you've got to be so good. And it's the last tenth or half a tenth that separates second from first. And that's what you miss. That's the part that will be missed if their suspensions go through.
Jimmie, thank you very much for your time today.